Hi friends, I hope you're well. Happy day. Today's Thursday, May 21st, I do believe. I am fresh out of office hours from my course. Y'all, there's so much going on. I wish I could tell y'all more. I wish I could tell y'all more. I've been filming all these really cute clips that I'm going to insert in some video at some point. I need to get them off my phone. I have a bunch on my camera. I've been out here living. Your girls have been living, okay? I've been living. I've been getting invited to events. Let me pop my collar. That's new. I got invited to one event, but let's pretend like it was multiple events, like influencer events. And I went and I had a great time. I'm also still in my class. I am about halfway done with the class. I would say, yeah, it's over in August. So maybe that's about halfway. About to start doing this group project and not thrilled about it, if I'm being totally honest. Don't tell anybody else I said that. Not thrilled about it simply because I've never been a group project girly. Not when like I'm forced to do it. You know, if it's a group of friends and we were, I don't know, putting together a charity walk for something, then like maybe that would be fun because that would be something something that's not required and that doesn't hold my future in its hands. You know, it would just be kind of something that I'm doing myself. But group projects for school have always kind of been lame to me. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm sure more once the experience is over. What else has been going on? I have been not in a rut. I've been rut adjacent. I'll say that. I think I've been rut adjacent because still unemployed, but I have been applying for jobs that I'm interested in. I've started to get clear on like what is next as far as the type of work I would like to be doing. Let me take a step back. I've gotten clear in my mind about that, right? And it is aligned with like the course that I'm taking. It's aligned with like the conferences that I've been to. I've been to 3 conferences since getting laid off at the end of January. I have been to 2 community farm events because I was looking for a place to volunteer. One of them was not a good experience. I posted, actually, I don't even think I posted the video yet. It's a video I filmed in April that I need to post. Maybe I'll put those extra cute clips in there. But I went to this open house for this community farm that someone recommended I go to because they thought, you know, based on like my interest in plants and stuff and like wanting to be all outside and outdoorsy, that it would be good for me to start volunteering, which I agree with. So I've been going to different events for various community farms around the city, and I'm going primarily to like get a lay of the land to see, you know, how far of a commute it is to get to these places, number one, but also just to like get the vibes of the farm and the people and the regular volunteers, and like if they have employees, like I want to meet them. If there's an executive director, I want to meet them because let me tell you something, okay? If I volunteer for an establishment and then I meet your leadership and they are garbage, I don't want to be there. So I went to this open house and I had a really, really nice experience with every volunteer that I came across, and they told me that they were looking for volunteers. I had sat down and I was doing an activity with one of them who was like leading a little workshop, and they were like, yeah, I can like, I'll send you the application. They sent me the application. We exchanged numbers. I was like, I definitely want to volunteer. I'm really interested. I want to start volunteering regularly with the community farm. And I hadn't met the executive director yet. Met the executive director. The person was not very pleasant. I walked up to them and was like, they were serving food at the event, and the food was prepared by I don't know who, but it was from food from the farm was prepared. It was like a cake and like some dips and stuff like that, just like finger foods. And so I went up, right? Now, old Brittany would never go introduce herself to people. I would just be like, "Oh, that's the person right there. Oh, okay," and then that'll be it. Never go introduce myself. But I'm entering a different space. I'm in a different space. And I am trying to form genuine connections with people. Networking has never been something that I've enjoyed doing because it has just always felt very performative and very much like, let me meet you so that I can figure out how to use you in some way. And that just feels really yucky to me. I don't know. I don't really like it. I've never really enjoyed networking events. And if I've had to go to networking events for work, I always take one of my very extroverted coworkers who loves to talk with me, and I send them to be the representative for us while I stand in the corner and be silent and like eat the food if there is food. So anyway, knowing that I'm trying to shift gears career wise, and also that I want to start building relationships, like genuinely building relationships. And how am I doing that? Not necessarily by going to like networking events, although some of the events that I have been going to could be considered that. It is by going to places that I have a genuine interest in being and connecting with the people in an authentic way around whatever it is that they're doing or contributing to that space that I'm in. So for this particular occasion, it was an open house for a community garden. They're recruiting volunteers. I had talked to like 3 different volunteers, and they all said like, yeah, we really need more volunteers. We desperately need more volunteers. We got all this stuff we're growing and we're going to need people to help us harvest and care for it. Like they were stressing. 3 different people stressed to me how they were looking for volunteers. I find the ED, I go up to her and introduce myself, tell her who I am, tell her, we have a mutual connection. Yeah, so and so recommended that I come here. I told her I was interested in volunteering and like I just wanted to check out the farm. Interested in potentially volunteering. Was asking her questions like, how long has it been established, or has it, when did you establish it? All of these things. She gave me a 1-word response, told me the year, and then, in a conversation, you say your thing and then you pause and then you wait for the person that you're speaking to respond, right? So after she told me the year the farm was established, that was all she said. It was just like, literally said the year and that was it. So then I was like, okay, the food is so good. I'm holding a plate, right? The food is so good. And she was like, yeah, that's why we do this. And literally walked away from me and started talking to someone else. And I was like, I was so shocked because not only was it raining that day, and something in me said, like right before I was leaving the house, because I had found out about this event the day before it was set to happen. And I saw it and I was like, oh, I'm going to go because this is one of the places that I may volunteer. So I want to go check out, this place. They're having an open house, perfect opportunity. I could talk to the person that leads it. I can talk to the other volunteers and just sort of see what people think about it. And I left feeling so small. And I hate that I felt that way, but it was good for me to meet that person and know that that's not where I need to be pouring my energy into. Because if I tell you I'm trying to volunteer and all your volunteers are telling me how you desperately need volunteers and this is your energy and you got all this stank attitude up in you and I don't know you from a can of paint, what if I was somebody that had money? Like, and not even like just some random rich person, but like, what if I was coming because I was representing a philanthropic organization and we were looking to partner with the community farm and we had money that we wanted to pour into it. And this is my first impression of you. Do you think that I'm going to advocate for you getting our money with that attitude at a community event, at an event that you hosted to recruit volunteers? Girl, it was just really off-putting. And I left immediately after that. And I tried to like, play it cool because I was like, they had some activities going on. So I wanted to like just go to all the different stations to see what they were doing. And there were some arts and craft things. They had like some food demonstrations. It was a lot of stuff that's like right up my alley. And I immediately felt so small after I had the interaction with that person, the interaction with the leader of this farm. And I was like, just trying to figure out how to get out of there at that point. So I finished eating my cake. I went and picked up my little art project that I had done, that I had sat with the other volunteers and got to know, and was having these nice conversations with them. Picked it up and then went and walked to the car and swiftly got out of there. And I was frustrated because something had told me before I left, like, don't go. And I thought it was just like my anxiety kicking in to say to me, like, there are going to be people, you're going to have to interact with people, strangers, stranger danger, you don't want to go. But really, I think it was my intuition saying, like, this is not going to be as fruitful of an event as you think that it will be. So, like, don't even waste gas money. Don't waste your time going to this. But I feel like I needed to go. I needed to go so that I could cross that place off my list. And I did. And I was in a stank attitude after that. I'm going to be honest with you. I was in a funky attitude the rest of the day because I just could not believe that that was the experience of, I don't know, I just couldn't believe that was the experience following a community event where they were like trying to actively recruit volunteers. And it really sucked because that was a place that was like at the top of my list for volunteering. But again, I'm glad I got to have that exposure to that person, because I will not be supporting her or her farm ever. And then a couple of weeks ago, I went to a garden party and I put on this really, really beautiful dress. I was a little overdressed because, I don't know, my mind went to like some fancy garden party in like LA, and it was just a totally different vibe. It was a very humble garden party, but it was still a lovely time nonetheless. I made friends with this older lady who lives in the community and like was telling me about the farmers market experiences. They do like a farmers market at this particular garden, and she was saying like all the food is so good and like she definitely tastes the difference, which made me happy to hear because I do these farmers market hauls and sometimes I think like, is this in my head? Does this food really taste this good? I will say it does taste this good because I had Mexican food a couple of days ago, and there were sliced radish in that came with my meal, and the radish tastes like dirt, y'all. And I know radish is a root vegetable, but I mean it was like dirt, like, and it could also be because I've been eating these like fancy watermelon radish lately that tastes a little sweeter or they're spicy depending on the color. But even just a regular old like radish, classic purple radish I get, they don't taste like dirt like that. And so it's been like me eating food from just the regular old grocery store or even at restaurants that I know are not serving like the highest quality. I don't need to be eating there, but sometimes you just do whatever. There are places I know aren't serving like farm to table, or not necessarily farm to table, but like local organic stuff. And not all of the things I eat are organic, but my goodness, that radish tasting like dirt. That alone convinced me. I was like, I've never had a radish from the farmer's market that tastes, or any produce item, any vegetable or fruit from the farmer's market that has just tasted like dirt in the way that that radish from that restaurant tasted like dirt. I ended up throwing, when I had my leftovers, throwing the radish out and putting my own farmer's market radish with the rest of the tacos, and it was so much better. What was the point I was trying to make? Oh, so yeah, talking to this lady, she was just telling me about the farm and like, some of the things that she's eaten, some of the food items she's eaten and purchased from the farmer's market, and kind of giving me a visual of like how it's set up in the space that we were in. And we were like buddies for the evening. We like saved each other's seats and like watched each other's plates when it was like time to eat or, anything like that. And when I was there, I had an opportunity to connect with their executive director. So this farm in particular, I was interested in volunteering, but also in, they have a program, like a farm program that I'm interested in signing up for. And they just teach you how to do like different things around the farm. And it's like a time commitment. So you go every weekend for a few weeks and then they show you how to do different things. And it's complementary to like some of the other things that I'm trying to do. So I didn't find out about it until later, but I really want to do it for next year. And I wasn't sure when the applications open. So I found the executive director. the friendliest, warmest person. She was so warm, and I told her like I'm really interested in this program, and she like lit up and was like, "Oh, we just got funding for it. The application's open in January, blah blah blah," and was just very very kind. It was a very nice exchange, and it was such a fruitful event. Not just because like I got to connect with the executive director and like meet this, you know, really nice lady from the community. And she was so lovely. She was like, "Yeah, come back, like come to the farmers market. I hope I see you, blah blah." And it was a nice event. It was a good event. The food was good. They had a vegan chef prepare all of the food, and it was just a really, really nice event. And I was a little overdressed, but it was still a beautiful dress, and I got a lot of compliments, and I felt good, and I was happy that I went. And it was just a completely different energetic exchange with those people than with, you know, the Edie at that first event that I went to for that community farm that I'll never return to. And I'm saying all of that to say, like, that is the type of networking, if I have to call it networking, that I want to do. Like, sitting next to somebody and then talking to them and then realizing that you have a lot in common, and being able to, like, share an appreciation for fresh, locally grown produce, and, like, I don't know, just sit and enjoy a meal together, and then enjoy live music and all of this stuff, and be able to connect and appreciate what people are doing on this land, and then also the community offerings, and like being involved in that. I follow them on social media and saw that they have some other volunteer opportunities. So you could volunteer to just like work, you know, on the land, and like probably like water the produce, or like the vegetables or whatever that are growing. Or when harvest time comes, I'm sure they'll need volunteers for that, or just general maintenance of a garden. You know, there's a lot of stuff to do. But they have specific composting volunteer opportunities, which I think I'm going to do, because I can't have compost at my house, because my place is, I live in a, you know, densely populated city, and I'm just not trying to attract all types of wildlife. But I am a part of a service where I, like, you know, I have a bucket, and I just take my bucket to a place, or they'll pick it up, and that's how I'm able to like get compost. And then they'll give me a bag of compost usually during the spring or summer. You can order compost from them for free. So it just felt good. I left that event, and I felt so energized about that, and, you know, eager to like sign up for that program that I want to do, but then also other community events they have. I think I'm going to check some of those out, and other volunteer, like smaller volunteer opportunities they have. I definitely want to do that, especially like during the day, while I'm like not working during the day. I'm absolutely going to be doing that. Well, in addition to like the volunteerism and stuff like that, I have been applying for jobs, of course. I've been applying for jobs this whole time since I got laid off. I think that I have just been applying for the sake of applying, and not because these have been positions that I'm like genuinely interested in. I mean, I'm interested if they're going to give me a check, but I also just want to be very, very intentional. I think I've talked about this in, you know, previous, in my layoff series, I've talked about this a lot. And I don't even think I'm going to call this the layoff series anymore. I just feel like I've exited that stage in my life where I was kind of grumpy, and I don't want to say disgruntled, but just like the shock of it all and just the frustration of it all, because I reached a point where I just don't care anymore. Not that I don't care, because I do care, but it's just, you know, gotten over that, because life has been so sweet in the midst of all of this chaos and like the world being on fire, because what is going on? Seriously. But outside of that, the way my life has just been flowing has been insane. It has been insane. And, you know, I think I talked in the layoff diaries about like having to give some things up. And one of the things that I was sad about having to give up was Coco says hello as she grooms herself. One of the things I was sad about having to give up was my therapy, because therapy is just something that I really look forward to. And it just has, I'm at a stage in my therapy journey now where it's for maintenance. I see my therapist once a month, and it is always so insightful. And I think that I think it's mutually beneficial, right? I love being able to have a person to share with and to get her perspective on things. But I also think that I am in a point in my healing journey where it has been fruitful for her to witness my growth and my development from the person that I was when I first started seeing her back in 2021. And, there have been so many instances where I share these positive updates with her. And I say positive because, like, they are positive to me. They might not necessarily be like, I don't know. I'm not even going to try to minimize my positive experiences by like giving some lame example, but there have been a lot of times, there have been a few times recently since I've been laid off where I've been talking to my therapist, and she'll say like, this is why I started doing this work, is so that I can see women or people become the best versions of themselves and become fully embodied. And like, I didn't really understand what that meant until I started to experience it. And embodied in the sense of like, I accept that I am just a tiny speck in this universe, but even in being a tiny speck in this universe, I yield power. And the world, when I am healed, I can heal others, because how I show up in the spaces influences other people. So if I come into a space popping my neck with an attitude, then like I can influence that sort of behavior in other people. The same way that if I come into a space and I'm genuinely excited about being there, and I genuinely want to know about this, farm learning program because I'm so interested in this work, then you have the potential to see my excitement and then feel your own level of excitement, and we get to like share in that moment. And I've been experiencing this more and more in my life, and it's so interesting that like the layoff has been the thing that's catapulted me. I mean, it's not that interesting. It's like it's a major life event, right? I guess it is. I think it's interesting because I've decided to not be ashamed of it. And in my not being ashamed of it, it has, I don't know, removed the stigma of embarrassment, because a lame ass company that is horrible financially is still that. And I am over here thriving. And, though unemployed in the traditional sense, feel a greater sense of purpose, and, have been making genuine connections with people and finding out about organizations, and in me sharing my authenticity. I will tell you this, one of the things that was really troubling me over the past few months, the first when was it? The first conference I went to post layoff was like at the end of February. I think it might have been February 27th. I went to this conference. It was an entrepreneurship conference. And I was nervous about having to introduce myself because I didn't know how to introduce myself. I was recently laid off. I'm not Brittany that used to work at that place anymore. I'm just regular Brittany with no job, trying to figure out what's next and not really sure of her identity. And I didn't know how to say that in a setting where people are like very networky, right? Like, hello, I am this person from this person or from this company. What do you do? And that's the thing out here is like, what do you do? And I'm just like, am a person that lives and breathes and exists and takes it day by day. And I like to be in the flow of life and be aligned to the things that are good for me. And that is not, people don't like it when you introduce yourself like that, or like, I don't know. I was really struggling with that. And because I was struggling with that, it was forcing me, not forcing me, I did it myself, but it was causing me to just avoid opportunities to connect with people. And I knew the space I was walking into, and it was a little bit intimidating because I'm like, dang girl, you recently unemployed and you're gonna willingly go to a event with a bunch of entrepreneurs, or current or wanting to be entrepreneurs, and like, what do you have to offer? That's kind of how I felt about myself. And then when there were spaces, when it was like the end of the event and it was like the networking happy hour, I was like trying to leave because I didn't want to network. I didn't want to connect with people and tell them like, oh, I'm so and so, and I'm unemployed. Oh, hello, I don't have a job. Like, I didn't know what to say. And the next event I went to, that was less of a concern because it was really about food sovereignty and like seeds and just like all the hippy dippy stuff that I love. It was really about the tangible parts of like the food system work that I'm interested in. So networking wasn't as big of a focus on it. I walked out of that event with like a whole bunch of seeds and like spices and stuff, and I got exactly what I wanted. And I loved that event too because the people that are in that space are usually like the spiritual, non religious people, and like those are my people. And so, sitting in a lecture hall and listening to all these elder women talk about collecting seeds and like, seeds passed down from their ancestors and blah blah blah. It was just a very different event. And then the most recent event I went to, which I will add clips of that if I haven't already when I post this video, which I'll probably add, upload that video in like a week, maybe a week or so, because I need to finish editing it. But this one will probably go up as soon as I finish recording it because it's just, it's not going to be a ton of editing. I'll just watch it back. But this most recent event I went to was a placemaking conference, and I'm an urban planner by trade. And so it was nice to be in that space with all of these people who like, I don't know, this was like my first like urban planning conference. I don't even know if I should say urban planner by trade. I have a degree in urban planning, but I never used it. Not in the land use planning sense. I went more of the community organizing route. And so all my jobs have been like more so community organizing and centered around like community development, but not from more of a people perspective, and not like a, building and like physical space perspective. Like social programs is kind of what I've worked on. So being in that space was so nice because I told myself that I wanted to re-enter the space from like with fresh eyes, and the urban planning stuff is so complementary to the food systems work that I'm, doing and studying and all of this stuff. And so I was like, I'm just gonna go in here and be my authentic self, and I'm not gonna shy away from people when there are opportunities to connect in a genuinely authentic way. It was a 2-day event. I'm so proud of myself for, first off, buying the ticket and going, but mostly for like being authentic in it, because there were absolutely moments when like during lunch, a whole bunch of tables with a whole bunch of chairs, and I went as a solo bird with no coworkers, right? And a lot of people went because this was like professional development for them, so they knew people, either coworkers or other colleagues from organizations that they've worked with in the past. And that just wasn't my reality. I was there as a solo bird. And as we had like lunch and like breakout groups and stuff, and there were opportunities to introduce ourselves to each other, when I felt comfortable doing so, I was open about who I was, like not just Brittany and I'm here to learn about XYZ, but like I'm Brittany, I'm in a transitional period in my life. I recently lost my job because of like federal budget cuts, and I have a degree in urban planning and I never used it, and now I think I'm ready to start using it. And it's so interesting how like I got this degree in planning like almost a decade ago, never used it like I said, and then I have come full circle where now I am ready to use it, but in a different way that I didn't know existed when I left planning school. So it's like I had to go through all of that stuff to arrive at this point. And so I can't show up in these spaces with all these like fresh eyes. I mean, I only have two eyes, so I guess with two fresh eyes. But I was saying that, not all of that. I'm telling y'all all the extra because y'all my people. But I mean, like, as I was meeting people, it was like, I'm Brittany. I'm, in a transitional period, and I'm here as an individual, not affiliated with any particular organization. And when I tell you that just by saying that and being open and people asking me and genuinely seeming fascinated by the fact that like I'm just trying to figure it out, and I didn't seem like I was in a rush, because I had a couple people say like, "Oh, well, are you applying for jobs?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am applying for jobs for the sake of applying for jobs, but also I'm I'm doing this very intentionally." So I'm gonna know when it's something that's aligned with what I should be doing or what I'm genuinely interested in when I come across it. I've just not seen a ton of those opportunities, which almost makes me think that whatever my next position will be is going to be something that I'm going to create myself. And I mean, like, I don't mean just like in an entrepreneurial sense. I mean, like, if I come across somebody who has some money to hire me, because I'm open to that as well, that a job may come as a result of a conversation that is had instead of me responding directly to a job posting. And I think in being this authentic version of myself and actually saying what I want and telling strangers and not being embarrassed about it, like, or even if I don't know what I want yet, but I'm getting closer and closer every time I go to these events and I meet these people and I hear these lectures about like what people are doing with their skill set and with their interests and stuff. Because even in the class that I'm taking right now, I I already know like who I was when I started taking the class is different. I'm not the same person, because when I started, I had just gotten laid off. That was right at the beginning of February that I started that class. And I had this idea of like, I'm going to take this class, I'm going to buy the textbook, and I'm going to make flashcards, and I'm going to be studying and like highlighting and doing all of this stuff. And like, I'm going to really learn it. And I am learning a lot, but it is just not as regimented as I told myself it had to be, because I'm not about a life of struggle. I'm not about a life of struggle. I'm not about a life of stress and strain. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. If I already don't have a job and I am telling myself I want to be very intentional about what's next, why would I want to recreate stress? Why would I want to recreate strain? And then I also think something else that helped was reading Gabriel I'm probably butchering his name. Gabor Mate, I think, is his name. I don't know if he's a brain scientist, but I listened to a book and it timed out. I had to read. I have a whole placed on it at the library right now because I didn't finish listening to it. But his book is basically about, what is it called? When the Body Says No. That's the name of the book, by Dr. Gabor Mate. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And I got pretty far into the book, maybe like halfway or maybe like three-quarters of the way. I didn't get to finish it though. He goes through all of these chronically ill patients' lives and like interviews them and like asks them very specific questions about like their upbringing and their relationships and how they were or were not allowed to express themselves in their formative years and, as early like adolescent years and stuff like that. And it all goes back to stress. It all goes back to stress, and like stress is a big part of it, and how stress is stored in the body, but also like how your interactions with other people, specifically your the adults in your life growing up, your parents or your guardians or whoever, in those formative years impact your long-term health. Because if you don't learn how to set boundaries at an early age, then maybe you will always be in a state of not being able to express yourself in the way that you should. And in holding that stuff in, you're holding in more than just the words, you know. He just does a really good job of tying it all to like chronic ailments, and diseases and things in the body. And so I am anti-stress. We live in a really crazy world that is already stressful. I do not need anything else in my life causing me stress. uh, Paying for health insurance right now out of pocket, and your girl cannot afford to be sick. Your girl cannot afford to be sick. I can't afford to be stressed out to the point where, you know, I have all these ailments and all of this stuff. This shoulder right here, which is still stiff. Certain movements I just can't do right now. So I've even had to like reconnect with, just this week, I made some appointments with my doctor and looking into physical therapy and stuff. After I got laid off, I was just like, okay, well, I don't know how I'm going to make this happen because, you know, X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to be paying for my own insurance, and then even my copay is going to be expensive. And like, I figured it out. I have to eliminate all of the stressors. I have to eliminate all of the stressors that I possibly can. And so, and that's not to say that I'll never encounter stressful moments, but I handle stress a lot differently now. And I don't assume that it's my responsibility to handle the stress, especially like in group environments. Like in a group project, there's some stressful moments that are happening. It's not all on me. I'm not the group leader. You know, I'm one person in a group of other people. And even when I see that I'm being specifically called out, like, hey, Brittany, can you use your expertise to do XYZ stressful thing? No, I can't. I'm sorry. I can do a part of it because this is a group project, so I'll do my part, but all of it I can't do. You know, and it's been setting boundaries and not being afraid to set boundaries, and like sometimes setting boundaries trigger people, but that's not my concern. Like if you are triggered by me setting a boundary, then you have issues. You got control issues, and that is coming across as predatory. And I don't vibe with that energy. And so I've just had to be very firm in this stage of my life. And I think it's important because I've realized as I've been connecting more and more with friends and like former coworkers who, some of them have also lost their jobs. I didn't know that because they are dealing with their own grief process and shame process. And it is in us being able to reconnect and have those one-on-one conversations where they're like, I got laid off right after you did, and I was too ashamed to talk about it. Where I'm like, oh, that's why you haven't been talking to me. I get it. I was making it about me. I thought I did something. And it's just like, no, girl, people are just living their lives. So I don't know. It's just been so many lessons have just come out of this time off. And, you know, to just kind of wrap it up, when I thought about my class and how I was going to approach that work from this very, very like stressful, doing the most perspective, I'm not doing that. Like, this is not of interest anymore. And being in the class has highlighted for me where my areas of interest actually lie. And I don't have to be an expert in this whole textbook. I don't have to be an expert in this whole course, you know, in this whole syllabus. Like, it's just not going to happen. I'm going to study this stuff and I'm going to make it as stress-free as possible. I'm going to go to these events that I feel called to go to. I'm going to make it as stress-free as possible, and I'm going to find the positive moments in it. And like, that's how I'm living right now. And in me doing that, what has happened as a direct result has been alignment. It is literally felt like the world is shaping to my desires. So I will say I'm really looking for this type of class, and then I just put it out there. I just say it, and I'm not necessarily saying it to anyone, but a friend will then DM me and say, "Oh, hey girl, I saw this thing on this person's page and this made me think of you, and then forwarded, and then I look at the course or the conference and it's exactly what I just said I wanted to do. And I sign up for it, and then I go, and that leads to something else. Like when I went to the placemaking conference with all the urban planners, I met this professor. I had on a Detroit, I'm from Detroit. I put on this Detroit t-shirt because we had a service day as part of the conference, and we were like doing plantings and just outside all day, murals and stuff. I had a Detroit t-shirt on. It was like a Detroit Tigers t-shirt. And this lady walked over to me. She was a lady from a university in the area. And she was like, "Are you from Detroit?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh my gosh, I'm from Detroit too. I went to this school." She showed me she went to a school that I was familiar with. I told her I went to school close to where she went to school. And it was just a really good connection. Like, I don't know what's going to come from that connection. I don't even think I connected with that lady on LinkedIn yet, but I remember her name. At some point, because I took a break from LinkedIn too, it was just a little bit too much. So my LinkedIn has been silenced or on hibernation mode, and I feel okay about it. It's what I needed because I didn't want to keep seeing stuff from my last job, and I didn't want to keep seeing people getting laid off. It was just triggering me. And a lot of people were just, that's all the posts was like, "Oh, I was just made redundant. Let me know if you see any opportunities." And like, I guess some people could say, "Well, girl, you should be on there doing that same thing." I need a break from it. I needed a break from it all. But in meeting this lady who came up to me, like she came up to me and like she came up to me, we started talking for a minute because she was just so happy to see somebody else from Detroit. She told me her name. She was like, "Yeah, I work at this university. You can look me up. I'm the only person there with that name." So I was like, "Well, there's no rush because she's the only person there with that name. So I'll remember her." And she had a very distinct name. And then she told me, I told her what I was studying, and she was like, "There's a guy here with a yellow shirt on who has a farm. You should go see his farm. He just told me about it. He's a council member at some local municipality." And so I'm looking around after we stopped talking. I find a man with a yellow shirt and walk up to him. And I'm like, "Hey, are you so and so? Do you have a farm?" And he was like, "Yeah." So he got so excited because I asked about his farm, gave me his card, invited me to come to the farm. We haven't made any arrangements to do that, but that's an opportunity now for me to go visit somebody's farm, and have a personal invitation. So all of that to say, this has been a very fruitful, how many months? February, March, April, May. 4 months of unemployment. It is not gone exactly the way I thought it would go. Like, I thought I would be posting a whole lot more on social media. And I did, I had my little run for a minute. But y'all, I just got tired. I was just physically exhausted, and I just felt like I couldn't move. Like, I couldn't do it. Literally couldn't, because the shoulder was just frozen over here, not moving. And I just physically didn't feel up to it. And I know the thing with social media is like, yo, we don't just want influencers. We want people who show us the bad days too. And it's just like, I'll show y'all some of the bad days, but you can't have it all. Like, I have to save some of that for me. And once it starts feeling like a chore and stressful, I can't do it. That's when it's time for me to put it down and go take a drink of water and go put my feet on the grass and relax. And so even the way I've showed up on social media, I've just had to take a break from it all. And then being on social media also exposes me to like all of the SHIT that's happening in the rest of the world. And in the way my algorithm is set up, it just keeps showing me all these scary things, and I just can't right now. So, but I'm feeling better about it. I'm starting to pull my camera out a lot more and not just recording like the layoff diary stuff. Like I said, that's probably once I post this next video, not this one, but the one where I go into more detail about whatever I was talking about earlier in this video. Y'all, I'm losing steam now. I don't know what I was saying. I'm gonna get back together though. I'm gonna get back on it, and it really has made me happy to hear so many of y'all. Not happy like I'm happy for y'all to be laid off, because that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. That's not what I mean, but it's made me feel good to see other people in the comments. I've gotten a couple of comments where people say like they've been laid off, or they're also kind of in a in this rut. Like this is a weird time for so many of us. And like, I graduated during the last 2008 recession or whatever. So I guess I'm used to it, right? It's all about being a millennial. Is you just, you know, I don't know. I'm not trying to start no generational wars, but I think we all know it's trash out in the streets right now. And I don't mean litter. Okay, I don't mean litter. But yeah, that's it. I'm rambling right now, and I'm gonna stop because I'll just keep going. But if you made it through this entire video, you are a real MVP. Leave me a comment and leave me a comment of a trophy emoji because you are the real MVP. And if I had a punch card, I would punch your card and you would get a free coffee or something on punch number 10, but we don't have that established yet. So anyway, I really appreciate you watching. Thank you for being here, for real, because part of the anxiety too, I know I just said I was ending this video, but I changed my mind. Part of the anxiety too, something happened. Somebody left me a really stanky message, not message, what do you call it? Comment. I've gotten like two like really outrageously stank comments. And when I say stank, I mean just like inappropriate. And it threw me off because I don't feel like I'm posting super controversial content. Like I'm just showing you my plants and stuff and like telling you that I lost my job. Like, why would you want to talk trash about somebody who doesn't have a job? But you know, there are people out there who are projecting, are and don't know it, don't realize they're projecting. But I will say this, the nasty comments, although I do want to eat them up and like talk about they mamas and stuff, I don't do it because I've been the type of person I am. When I experience something, I start doing research on it. So I did a deep dive about people who troll, and I came across a few TED Talks, funny enough, about people who troll and like how they fall into one of three buckets, and it's called the dark triad. And it's like usually people who troll are have traits of being psychopath, sociopath, or something else. I think I'm messing that up, but you can look it up. It's called the dark triad. And when I read that, I was like, I'm not going to engage. I'm just going to delete and block, you know, because if you crazy and you leave a crazy comment, I'm not saying nothing to you. I'm going to just delete it and block it and pretend like I don't see it. So that's how I'm moving forward. But it's just really weird to me. I think I had posted something about, it was one of my videos. It was a video I almost didn't post. It was a random thought. It was a layoff video, but it was like titled Random Moments from My Week. And I had talked about like doing a scholarship application for this program that I was applying for, and then calling my grandmother, and somebody left me a comment and was like, "You're so boring," and like, "Go call your grandma." And I was like, are you triggered because your grandma is not on this earthly plane? Is that why this is upsetting to you? Because I just wasn't understanding, like, why would you leave a trolling comment? And that wasn't the full comment, what I just said. It was, I think they used profanity as well. It was just really strange. So, you know, you just never know what people are going through, and not everybody knows how to regulate their emotions, which is a skill that I recommend all people figure out how to do. So anyway, that's all. I really appreciate you being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.